Greetings. Hello, viewers. My name is John. I'm here to tell you a story. A story about one lone American living in another country. In this case, Brazil. Now, a lot of people in the US think Brazil. A lot of people in America think that Brazilians live in mud huts. Well, I'm here to tell you that that is not the case. They function every day just like we do. They got stores, air conditioning, all that wonderful things. They just don't monopolize on it like we do. So, let me start from the beginning as to how and why I was in Brazil. Short story is, I met a woman, a wonderful woman, who is now my wife. So let me just move on from that, and I will tell you about what my experience was like, everything that I did, I saw, things that I've experienced, people that I met, and of course, y'all can ask questions and I will maybe come around to be able to address them. So, my time in Brazil started basically a little nervous because, of course, we all hear the stories about how dangerous Brazil is, how it's filled with crime and all that, normal stuff that we normally hear. Which is true, but that's everywhere. Everywhere's like that. Can't go to a place and not have crime going. Heck, I lived in several places in the US that were just as bad, sometimes worse, in the places I've been in Brazil. So, the first place I lived was a city called São Carlos. It was in the province of São Paulo. Excuse me. And pretty much when I went there, I didn't know anyone. The only person that was there that I could, talk to and rely on was my wife. I don't speak any kind of Portuguese whatsoever. That's another thing that a lot of people here in the US think is that Brazilians speak Spanish, which is not the case. Their native language. So when I first arrived there, I only knew basically simple greetings. I mean, even now, I only know simple greetings. I know a little bit more now than I did before, but I still don't have the. So I went there, and whenever I went out, I was always with my wife, so she would order basically for me. I would tell her what I would want, and she would order for me because I don't know how to speak Portuguese. Not for the lack of trying, mind you, because I definitely did try. I just didn't really have the, I guess you could say, the capacity to like sit down and learn it. Like I tried using Duolingo. I tried watching videos. I tried just doing what some people do and just translator app and Duolingo and all sorts of things. Just try to get used to a language. I unfortunately do not have the mental capacity to really teach myself that way. Not for lack of trying. I tried a lot and it just did not click for me. There are some words that I do understand. There are some things that I do get, and so whenever certain words are said during a conversation, I can pick up on at least the context of what the conversation is actually about. Excuse me. So the area that we lived in, we basically lived on the outer edge of San Carlos. I want to say on the eastern side of San Carlos, maybe slightly south side of San Carlos. And we were living in actually a pretty good sized house. Homes there are a lot different than they are here in the US. They're a lot closer to each other. They're basically made of stone. concrete, brick. They're not made with wood and plywood and like just the materials that we use here in the U.S. That's what I said. I said stone, concrete, and brick. I'm making my go away. You are doing what I do and just having selective hearing. So that was my wife in the background, just making sure that I said brick. I did say brick. Okay. So, and she actually plans on putting like translations to these videos, so then people who are from Brazil want to see these videos, they'll have at least translation that they can, read while story. So at first, I kind of felt like a fish out of water. I did notice a lot of people like giving me glances and looking at me like, who and what are you doing here? This is definitely a weird thing to see. They weren't sure if I was American. They weren't sure if I was European. They didn't know where I came from because I didn't really say a whole lot. The only people that knew where I was from, besides my wife, was just her family and a very select few of her friends. So I arrive in Sao Paulo International Airport. My wife was waiting for me, and I remember I was going through the airport, and I definitely felt that I was entering a completely new. It was definitely a new experience for me. I'm the only one in my family to do something like this, to just pack up all of my things and move to another country with zero plan. I had no idea what I was doing. But luckily, I, of course, am good. So we took a bus from Sao Paulo to San Carlos, Sao Paulo. And that trip took about, if I remember correctly, around 3 hours? Around 3 hours. So we're on a bus. This is the first time my wife and I actually have ever seen each other in person. Very first time. And when I saw her for the first time, it was almost like a movie. Time slowed down, and I had sound like just stopped. I didn't hear anything. I couldn't see anything. The only thing I could see was just her. And then we got on the bus and, of course, spent 3 hours in a bus, kind of talking, but kind of being quiet because my wife wasn't too sure if I should, talk too loud because of the fact that I wasn't speaking any Portuguese. Which I still would love to master that language, but my brain is fun. Excuse me. So, when we got to San Carlos, then we had to call Uber to get to the house that we were calling home. And we were sharing a house with her sister's boyfriend, and their child. Oh, and I actually completely forgot that the very first, it was when I left here in the U.S., it was Christmas Eve. When I arrived in Brazil, it was Christmas Day. So I like to joke with my wife, saying that I was her Christmas present. So I was, her gift. Um, so it was Christmas time when we arrived. It was summer. It was hot, but I resided in Florida before then, so I was already basically used to it. Believe it or not, it was actually hotter in Florida when I left than it was in Sao Paulo. Basically Sao Paulo, the city, and San Carlos, and it was summer there. So It was hotter here in Florida in winter than it was there during summer. So when we arrived in Sao Paulo, I mean, not Sao Paulo, sorry, San Carlos, called the Uber. We arrived at the house. I got to meet her sister, her sister's boyfriend, and her sister's boyfriend's side of the family. I got to meet some of her side of the family, her mom, one of her brothers, I think, was there at the time. Um, and so, because it was Christmas, so family gathering, so I got to, basically meet them. Granted, I couldn't speak anything to them because I'm not good with other languages besides English. So we basically had standard Brazilian festivities for Christmas. They don't celebrate it as hard as we do in the States because, you know, the Americans go hard on everything. So, but I mean, we were managed to, you know, I had a good time. We did like a little secret Santa thing. I got a cup in the shape of a skull as my secret Santa gift. I got something for my wife's niece, and from here in the US, and we all exchanged gifts. And so that was basically my first day. Not a whole lot really happened, just a very long flight, 3-hour bus trip, then immediately just basically hanging out, having a good time. There was the standard family drama, as some families have. I mean, as you know, families have all sorts of drama. This case, it was my sister-in-law's boyfriend was pretty much having an argument with his granddad. But yeah, that was basically my first day in Brazil. Um, One thing I can say about my first day in Brazil is I had no issues. I was able to carry my 2 massive suitcases across one country to another, get put on a bus, get to the house, and nothing was wrong. So yeah, that was my first day. I do plan on making more videos like this. This is just the start of very long, storytelling that I plan on doing. And yes, I am actively playing Final Fantasy XIV while I story. This isn't pre-recorded footage or anything, and different racing game or something. Who knows? Yep, that was the start of me living in Brazil. No job, some money saved up in my bank account, and arriving on Christmas Day. So, for those of you who have found this video and would like to hear more stories about my time in Brazil, stick around. I plan on telling more. I'm going to try to do this at least once a week. And maybe we can do a story with my wife talking about how she came to the US and all the trials and tribulations of her being able to come here. That was fun. But yeah. See y'all next time.